What's up, awesome peeps? So in this video, and sorry I have glasses on, but the sun is like, boom, right there. And it is what it is. So my intention with this whole video is to interview Morgan. You'll learn about Morgan here in a second. She's the CEO of Subi Zimmerman. She's like the wizard behind the curtain. And they have done some really cool stuff with their launches. That's why I call this like the plus $123,000 case study. And the cool thing about Morgan is she's not like a lot of the industry where it's like they're going to hold shit back. You know what I mean? She knows her numbers and she like shares. So with that being said, we'll just kind of dive into this, Morgan. So the first kind of question is just like, hey, let's just break down like what were the summary of the results from some of your launches? I know you did 2 of them. That's what we're going to be diving in today.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Ready, Set, Graham launch that led to Pro, which I know we'll discuss the actual programs in a moment. The first promotion, which happened in June, brought in $63,000. And then the next program that was released in August, kind of the timeline there, produced $123,000. So it's the $186,000+ case study. And proud of it.
So good. My typical fashion, under promise and over deliver. So it's good. I like it. So let's just kind of unpack this thing, because I hear people in our industry that are selling courses or selling coaching, whatever. They're like, I did a launch, I made, multiple 6 figures, high 6 figures. But let's really unpack this thing, just kind of debrief it. So let's just go through the numbers. What was the first launch again? It was how much exactly?
63,000.
63,000. And then on the back end of that one, I guess you made another 120?
23.
Yeah, 123. Okay, perfect. So let's look at the first one, the 60 something thousand. What was the offer? You're selling $297 offer. No.
We increased the price. So AJ's been with us for a long time, guys. So 18 months ago, this course cost $197 with a coupon code. We increased the price after reviewing, re-recording, and building up the what was actually taught in the course into this real system. And so we basically doubled the price. So the retail value of it was $497, but during this promotion, you had a $100 coupon code to purchase it at $397. Along with the course, you were also given access to a upsell, which is a audit. So we teach Instagram marketing. We haven't said that yet. So the course was Instagram marketing for beginners. And then the audit was personalized attention on your account valued at $97. So you could either take the regular Ready, Set, Graham or Ready, Set, Graham Plus.
Awesome. And how many customers did you guys bring in for the 60?
111.
111 customers. And then what was your launch size, meaning people opted in? We haven't even broken down the funnel. We'll get into that. But how many people opted in then?
4,193.
Nice.
That's what I got.
And then how many refunds? What was your refund rate?
I think we've had like 2 refunds. I don't even know. We don't do refunds often.
So good. It's one.
I don't have an exact percentage to pull for you, but I don't have a 20% refund rate to report. You know what I mean?
So good. So another thing I love about you guys is you guys, again, are one of the few who under promise and always over deliver and treat people like humans. You know what I mean? And that's why your results speak for themselves, but also like, man, you talk about in this world having like a low refund rate. You guys are awesome. So how many of them paid up front and how many kind of did payment plans?
We have no payment plan for this product. So intentionally, it's a one-time payment because of, the whole funnel that we're talking about today, with that back-end coaching offer being much higher price points. So we very intentionally do not have a payment plan.
Nice. So
what we did have during the promotion actually was that our course is lifetime access. So the new version of it, old members get access to, and we ran something special this time for those newbies coming in, which was called Summer Camp, which was a six weeks of live Q&A calls. And we allowed old customers to buy into just that. And that was a part of this revenue as well. So probably, I don't know, 15-18% of this revenue is that summer camp.
Nice. Which all you did was just take your existing Ready Set Graham customers who've already invested, and then I think you guys
Right.
sold the summer camp for $97 or something like that, right?
$97. A majority of the sales came in to that. We did it before the cart opened to new members for the program. So there was a finite, I think, 48-hour cart open. And then after that, as the promotion ran out, we doubled that price to $197. And we had 15 people come in at that price point as well. So
that's amazing.
The camp thing was huge, not only in leading people to this coaching offer that we keep teasing you with, but also as a revenue driver and to re-engage our previous customers.
Yeah. So it's just crazy because if I remember correctly, you're like, hey, I think we're going to do this thing for free. That way we just kind of, get some social proof going from the old customers. And then Jonathan and I were like, what if we charge them for it? You're like,
Yep.
well, okay.
Yep.
And then boom, some good revenue came from charging the existing customers. And not only did you make money, but they were so grateful of going through summer camp. Like they were so happy that you guys asked them to participate for $100. Well, 97.
Totally.
Awesome.
Totally.
So you kind of did a launch within a launch. You did like the main launch for Ready Set Graham, but within that, to prime that launch, you did a mini launch to the existing customers.
Exactly.
Nice. So what was the revenue on open cart day and then kind of cart close? Let's just kind of give people some comparison, because I see a lot of people who do a launch and then they're like, oh, it's not working on open cart day. What's going to happen? Oh my God. So I just want to give them some realistic expectations.
Sure. So in this launch was a little bit different than our previous launches in that I would normally say that our last day is our highest day of sales. That wasn't the case for this launch. And I wonder if that's kind of because this industry is changing and people are more aware of the urgency factors of launch cycles and how all this works. But in terms of the first day, the first time that it was offered was on the live webinar, which we haven't said. That was the promotion,
right.
Part of it. And I have, let me see. I'm pulling my numbers here. I had 38 sales come in on that first webinar.
Nice.
And 20 people got that upsell. So on average, 43% of people have purchased the audit upgrade. And that's very consistent across Evergreen, across when this product was even introduced in the first place 18 months ago or 2 years ago.
So good.
So that upgrade happens as well. But for us in this promotion, the most sales come live on the call.
So good. So we'll get into the cart close here in a second, but I want to speak to something. So your upsell was actually more of a service. It wasn't a product. A lot of people selling courses are trying to do a bump, right? An upsell into an existing product or a downsell, whatever, or a bolt on or this or that. But you guys did something kind of different where you gave up your time. Now, some people would say that's the stupidest thing that you could ever do. Why are you trading dollars? It's not scalable, da, 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 da. So unpack that for me for a little bit. Why you guys, and again, this is why I love you guys, is you guys figure out what works for you, what works with the goals that you want, not comparing and despairing what the industry is doing, like what you guys want to do and what you guys want to create for your customers. So why does giving time for dollars work for the upsell for you guys?
Well, a couple of things. One is that we really try to listen to our customers. And if I've learned anything with working with AJ and Jonathan for the past 2 years is to even listen more intently than we were listening before. And so we find that people reach out for that kind of support, and we still sell Sue's hours at $500 a pop. And so because we're being asked for it, it's best for me to create a system around it. So the second thing that I would say is that this process is very, very automated. I am known for that. My background is in systems engineering. My nickname is Morganizer. So I organize everything. So this process where you would probably say, oh, Morgan, it doesn't just take 15 minutes that the audit has been required. It takes you this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. well, I've automated 90% of the process. So it really does just take Sue the 8 to 12 minutes to review the account and upload it to our team. And we deal with a whole delivery automation process in terms of her getting the information as well as delivering it, et cetera, et cetera. So we've made it work for us because it's something that our audience asks for. Also, Sue loves to do it. I found in this industry that you have to love what you do or you really shouldn't be here. I talk to a lot of our clients struggling with like the day-to-day of entrepreneurship, and when they're complaining about things, I'm like, well, hold on. Why are you doing this with your day? Because the whole reason why you quit your job in the first place to do this was so you would enjoy your day.
Exactly.
Sue loves to get nitty gritty in with our customers and spend that time. I will also mention that literal audit, the review, the 8 to 11 minutes, whatever that Sue is spending, has its own system in place as well. So she's not making up what feedback she should be giving. There's like an 11-point checklist or something like that of things to review. So it's kind of just becomes a thing that she does in the car, driving to her vacation home, to be honest with you guys.
So did these automations and the processes come about because you sit down and you have the ability to think through A to B? Or did it come about because you're like, hey, these people really love being with Sue. Sue, you really enjoy being with them. Let's try selling them a thing for 15 minutes to get some feedback, and let's see what happens. And then it worked. Like, people paid. You're like, oh, they won it. They paid. And then you're like, well, we'll just figure it out. So you hopped in, she did it. And then over time, you figured out what worked, what didn't work, and what to systematize and automate.
Yeah, I mean, we're big testers, so 100%. The first part of the discussion is that what is a bonus offer that makes sense for our customer? What are people asking us for? They were asking us for this. We figured out how it would work for Sue directly, and we did it for a while. Then we wanted to see if people actually even decided to spend the money. The fact that 45% of people do it, and this software has been around for a couple of years, is pretty wild. Another thing is that when our goal is to sell someone into a higher price point experience, either live or at coaching, hearing Sue's voice speaking directly to them is another one of those sales touch points. So people who have decided A, to invest more in themselves, but B, because they've heard Sue's voice, are then more likely to come along on that journey. So it's definitely the second one. It wasn't automated from the very beginning, but we did have trouble deciding what bonuses made sense for us. And so we figured we'll give it a try, even though exactly what you said. Most people say do something that doesn't take your time. Right. I thought the reason why you made a course was to not take your time. Exactly. But we've saved a lot of time with our course. And this is her one thing that she can do with people in that way.
One, the other thing that I think you guys being smart and playing long ball, it actually creates more of a human touch in this game. Right. That there really isn't a lot of human interaction unless you really go out of your way to create it, which you guys do. Right. Another thing I really value about you guys. But as a result, it actually pays you on the back end in like big dollars, which we're going to get into in a little bit, because it creates more trust and respect, meaning a deeper human connection with your target market up front. You're still getting paid with it up front, but you're really making a lot more money long-term on the back end, which is cool.
And it helps someone continue to get to know you as well, which is important because we're not for everyone. We are very brutally honest. We swear. We really dig in with you. We don't deal with bullshit. And so if someone gets that first feedback from Sue and is like, whoa, she is walking all over me, they're probably not right for some of our higher end programs as well. So it gives you like a taster of what it is to work with us, and you're not right for everyone, right? If you think you're right for everyone, you're doing something wrong.
Totally. So we talked about cart open, talked about upsell. What was the revenue on the cart close day?
The cart close day was, let's see, not so many sales. So let me see. Looks like 15 came in on the last day. The main thing was that we did 2 live webinars. And on that first live webinar, it brought in 38. On the second live webinar, it brought in 36 or something like that. So we basically had made, I'm doing my little calculator math here for you guys.
Of course you do.
We basically had made 70% of our revenue up in the front with people live and following up from the calls. So our cart close wasn't as like energized as.
Yeah, still 30% of $60,000 is still a good chunk of change. It's worth following up for.
Sure. Totally. No, doesn't mean that emails aren't worth it, but was different than our past launch experiences. Normally I can see kind of a 55, 45 kind of follow up.
Yeah, usually kind of almost reversed almost.
Right.
So let's outline the funnel a little bit. What was the funnel for this launch and the launch within the launch?
Sure. So we have a webinar. It's called The 3 Keys to Getting Followers and Buyers on Instagram.
Yep.
And
where can people, if people haven't been through that webinar and they want to learn about Instagram, where do they go to go learn or sign up for that webinar?
SueBZimmerman.com/3keys, 3
Brilliant.
the number.
Perfect.
Go for it. It's
Good.
awesome. You'll hear my voice on there. I am Sue's partner in crime and everything here, guys.
Awesome.
So that webinar, we did live twice in June for a live promotion where they were introduced the new course at the new price point, as well as the audit upsell, and as well as that new special bonus summer camp. And that webinar running 2 times, I think had a 3 or 4 day email follow-up. I think the webinars were Tuesday and Wednesday, and the cart closed Friday or Saturday, something like that. We kept it very tight.
Yep.
From attending that webinar, you hope that someone joins Ready, Set, Graham, or comes into the summer camp experience through being a past member, right? So AJ had mentioned the 48 hours or so before the webinars happened, we also sold summer camp to our community of existing clients and sold 117 of those. So by June, whatever, the first day of summer camp, I had 243 people that had committed to going through the course in a real way, in a live way. And they attended 6 weeks of live Q&A calls. On the last call, we introduced that there's another way to continue to work with us if you're interested in this kind of hands-on process, because surprise, summer camp and the way that those live Q&A calls are run is exactly how the live Q&A calls in Pro are run. Who knew? So at that 6-week mark, either it's an old person that's been in part of our community for a while, or someone new that has been really, really well nurtured, and people loved these Q&A calls way more than I ever thought. I did not believe AJ. AJ's been telling me about Q&A calls for, I don't know, years. And I was like, people don't care about this. There's no way that they actually care. And you know what the truth is? You have to remember that you're not your own target demo. Like, I am so technical that I'd be like, I just need to get your map of this. I just need to have the video instruction. I don't know what I'll ask on a Q&A call. That's not our target demographic. And on these live calls, we learned what really holds them back.
So good.
And it's not what I thought. So it helped form the next program. So on that last call, we introduced Pro, which is our high-end coaching program. It's a 90-day program. And in order to enter, you have to apply and have an interview call with Sue. So that day, that last camp day, was the first time that application opened. And once it was opened, we then spent the time marketing that application to those people who did camp, to any past customer of Ready, Set, Graham. So there was probably a list of 1,400 people getting emails, probably 1,000 people actually in the Facebook group active. But it was emails, social in the group, personal invites from the connections that Sue had made on camp and in DM, and then retargeting ads. And so from that pool of 242 people, I wanted the 10% kind of as we moved along. We ended up with 27 total people in the program. 22 sold from that section, and 5 sold from a sale that I would love to tell you guys about, because it really helped with verifying that we wanted to do this offer. So it's been a long journey. These people are now in the high-end coaching program. They started it in the middle of August. They are with us for the 90 days. They are experiencing the live calls, but we're getting really good feedback. So
Awesome.
Cool.
And then, so let's go to the webinar. So how many,
Sure.
You said, I think you had 4,000 and some odd people register for the webinar,
Exactly.
right? You did 2 webinars.
Mhm.
How many, what was the show up rate for those, for the webinar 1 and webinar 2?
I don't actually, hold on guys.
Whoa.
I have documents on documents. Let me see here. I do know that it was lower than we wanted. And a couple of things that we did differently while I find this actual document is our ads ran much earlier than the live call. And for the purpose of this learning phase that ads have now, where you want to get the most out of the targeting being optimized. So giving the ad the chance to go through the learning phase as well as go through the promotion means giving it a little more time. But it also means that someone could be registering 8 days before the live call, which is hard for me, right? So I have to spend more time nurturing that person via email. The other thing that was different is, playing with a lot of cold audiences. So it was mostly cold traffic coming into this webinar. This is a webinar that had already been positioned to our audience a year before and had successfully generated, I think, $50,000 then at the lower price point, and then also was evergreened for 3 to 4 months before it was redone and was converting very high as well, like 9%. So it was kind of a gamble to reuse the webinar, knowing that most of our audience had already seen it, but we decided that because it was still so profitable, that why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah. Now I want to talk about that a little bit, because I feel like a lot of people, when they have something that works, and you and I went through this, like, well, what are we going to create? I'm like, let's do the same thing. They're like, we can't do the same thing. I mean, they've already seen it. And I'm like, well, yes and no. Not all of them. People registered for it, but I mean, like 36% or 34%, I think the year before had showed up.
Had
so
attend, right?
Yeah, 60 something percent who never saw it. So what we did was we used the same psychology. We went through it slide by slide by slide and made sure all the stats were up to date. We updated the stats. We updated the stories within the webinar with new stories. You hired, well, you didn't really hire because you guys have a really good designer, but for the sake of this, you hired a designer.
Gave it a facelift.
You gave it a facelift, right?
We also integrated the changes that were made to the product. So in that year, we had given the program a whole facelift and introduced a system into it that wasn't included in the webinar. So it was different, even though it was the same.
For those of you who are watching this, and if you have something that works, my advice to you is keep it going. Like, don't reinvent the wheel. Don't break something that isn't broken. I think it's what I told you. I was like, don't break it if it's not broken. Like, just keep running with it. Keep putting.
No, I'm a perfectionist, and I always want to be the top of the top in this industry, and always have since we started. And AJ always has to remind me that, is it profitable? If you put $1 into a machine and 2 came out, would you be happy? Then shut up and let it roll. Because that's hard for me. I'm like, wait, that return, doubling my money is good enough? Yeah, it is. So
awesome.
Talk for another day, evergreen. But yes, that concept of keep going with it is definitely important. So I'm sorry, I have the show up rate here now. So the first webinar was 37%.
30%, that's great. You kidding me? You're like, it was lower. That was fantastic. 37%.
I literally have written here lower than what we started. Guys,
Ridiculous.
top of the top, sorry. And then the show up rate for the second was 33%.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. And do we know how many people watched the replay?
I don't have that.
Okay, no worries. No worries. We already talked about the sales from the follow-up. We already knew the people that came in live. Most people came in live. And 30%-ish, give or take, came in from the follow-up, which was 3 days of emails.
Right. And the audit converted above 50% on both of those webinars, 50 plus 52% here. These are both 5-figure webinars, which is a pretty good hour. So like you have to count all your blessings here instead of acting a little crazy like I do. Sorry.
So one thing I want to talk about real quickly, because we talk, like we could sit here and position this well, be like, we made an hour's worth of work. And technically that is somewhat true. How much work really goes into putting a launch together like this?
So much. Yeah. So much. Months, hours, many people, depending on who you are and what you're good at.
Awesome.
It's a huge commitment. And it's a huge commitment even for someone like me who's been doing this for 7 years. Actually, we're hitting our anniversary next month, 7 years in business, and it's still an undertaking.
Awesome. Now, what worked really well for this launch within the launch?
Insight for the webinar specifically?
Yep.
Let me see. I mean, systems wise, we were much more refined than we ever had been before in terms of like preparedness. I thought the quality of our messaging and the quality of our content was really there. We were really listening to survey results and interviews that we had with past clients to understand what problem we were solving for them, which if there's anything that I steal from AJ and Jonathan, it's telling my clients to do the fucking survey. Like, do the survey. What question are they asking? Like, because why do I have a webinar that's been running for 2 years that still has a 50% registration page conversion rate? Because of the survey. Like, that said, I want more followers and more buyers. And that's what the title is.
That's exactly what we gave them. So easy.
Exactly.
The game is so simple.
Exactly. So I thought the messaging was clear. For the 3 keys, trying to think what else.
And when you say systems, what systems do you mean? Like what systems?
Production. So, I mean, so much of a launch is about content production. So I list 5 areas. I have it on a little sticky note here. On your website, social media, paid ads, email, and content marketing. And all of those things require orchestration. And I always say that depending on how many resources you have is how much of this you do. I have a team of 10 working on Stubby Zimmerman now at any given time. So that's why we're able to touch on all the places. But orchestrating graphic design, orchestrating the content production and copy that's needed, the actual webinar slides, practices of those, scheduling. These are all things that do affect it.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. And what didn't work well?
I'd say one thing is that I wish we had done 3 webinars at least. The reason because we don't do live webinars that much anymore. And so we like to get our groove. And if you just get your groove in the second webinar, then you're like, well, darn, I wish we could just get this going one more time, because the first one, you're just getting into it. So I'd like to do that, or create a scenario in which it feels more like we're practicing. So AJ and Jonathan have had us practice webinars before, but it's often to refine the language or the timing, not to have the feel of the live experience. So one tip I'd say, if you don't want to do 3 webinars, would be to invite 5 of your closest friends to sit actually in the room, schedule the webinar, and then you have people in the chat and you have that energy of it.
Yeah.
I'd say the time of year, I believe, affected things a little bit. It was mid-June, which our target demographic are, you know, women, normally mothers or of mothering age, where there's a lot going on in June, school years ending, graduations, wedding season starting, et cetera, et cetera. And we did get a fair amount of people saying, like, is this the right time for me to be taking on this undertaking? Or the fact that summer camp was during the summer while they have their own summer plans, you know? So
Sure.
it's something that we're going to play with and do a little bit earlier next year. But
Awesome.
the other thing is that now that we know that roadblock, we can address it. So we didn't understand that that was the roadblock until after, when we had people emailing, questioning, DMing Sue, is this the right time for me to do it? But we could introduce that into the webinar, because you guys always say overcome objections. Yeah, I'd say
Brilliant.
those are the couple of things I'd change.
Brilliant. So
I have
we just outlined what made you guys 60-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Then you made another 123 off the back end of this promotion.
Exactly.
With a webinar, right? Wasn't anything real fancy. No, we did not do a webinar on this one.
I don't even know that I'd call it that.
Nope.
It's the 6th summer camp call.
Yeah, you're right. You didn't do a webinar this one. Actually, it was just straight up emails and an invitation from your summer camp. You're exactly right. It was way more simple.
Mm-hmm.
I remember now, because we talked about doing another webinar, and I was like, nah, let's just ride the momentum and ask and do just like this personal invitation, email outreach, DM strategy.
And I would stop there for a second. Riding the momentum was a big part of this. So we had a big debate, kind of like, is our team ready to jump into this new program? Are we ready to produce this again? It's been a marathon. Can we keep going? Kind of discussion. And the answer from you guys was ride the momentum. So, and it like has worked here, and it means that we're going to hit our 2019 goals. So I'd say, like, take that in your back pocket if you're ever wondering, can I handle this? Obviously, all goals that you should be making are reasonable, but I have a team that can take on the work. And so it was kind of more like, do we push ourselves mentally or not? But we rode the momentum and it worked out.
Now, the other thing you guys did too is you guys are a big affiliate for Marie Forleo's B School. You're one of their top affiliates. Mm-hmm. And so you guys do a B School retreat. And on the back end of the retreat, Jonathan and I encourage you guys to pitch pro at the event.
Exactly.
And that was essentially kind of your beta launch, if you even want to call it a launch. It was
beta pitch. Yeah. Tested it.
Like a 15-minute pitch on a slide deck that you put together based upon the same offer stacking framework that we teach. And you guys pitched, and then you guys closed 5 at $4,500 a piece or something of that nature.
Yeah, $4,500 a piece. They got a couple extra bonuses. But to have, I want to say there were like 12 people in the room. Exactly. And the other thing is, every person we invited to join decided to join. So that felt good too. But that's kind of what I mean by like riding the momentum, or by like, we took it as a test to understand what the response would be to the offer, because we hadn't introduced something at this price point specifically for Instagram before. You were also getting this really like unfiltered access to our team that was more intense than had existed before. So we didn't know what the response would be to that.
Awesome. So then you took that and then boom, follow up, rode the momentum again, and did the 123 plus-ish.
Exactly.
So we talked about the funnel, front end, back end. So let's dive into a little bit of like the ads. What type of ads did you run? You talked about running ads to cold traffic. So let's break this up into 2 pieces. Part 1, phase 1, Ready, Set, Graham, the first launch. What type of ads? What platforms did you, Facebook, Instagram, both? Like, let's just break down the ads and what type of ads and all that.
Yeah. Facebook and Instagram is where we do paid traffic at this point. We did ads with the focus of webinar registration, as well as sales focused directly to the product sales page. We do both images and video ads. We do both feed and stories ads, but we're Instagram people, so you can't tell us no to stories. And yeah, so I mean, we cover the gamut really. It was a larger budget than we had focused on before. It was a $9,000 budget, which, you know, if you were to ask me, like, were there any moments that I was really like, throughout this whole process, it was the in-between of the Ready Set Gram and the Pro, knowing that we had invested $9,000 in ads for a $63,000 return. Now that's money. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I really have to pay attention to is that we spent $9,500 in the last 6 months and produced $186,000 instead of being more, you know,
So good.
concerned there. So it was really a front end investment to get new people in our sphere. And because Three Keys is evergreen, that can continue to kind of help those other 4,000 whatever that didn't decide to buy but came along.
Exactly. So you ran webinar registration ads, which was a still image and video, but did you also run retargeting ads for like, hey, your webinar is coming up, hey, buy the thing? Like what type of retargeting did you do?
We do retargeting to the webinar registration page for those who visit but don't register. And then we do retargeting ads for those who register for the webinar, hit the sales page, like that, directly to the sales page of the course.
Nice. And you run image ads for the retargeting pieces or video ads?
Both.
Both. Awesome.
But video won out, I believe. Doesn't video always win out?
It has for me currently as
exactly.
of October 1st, I guess, is the 1st, 2019, video ads been crushing for me. And
yeah.
Another little hack, and this may be something you want to split test, Morgan, I don't know if I've told you this or not, is when you're running to a cold audience, try a video that doesn't have the person's face on it. So meaning if they don't know you and we're running a picture of our face and we're like, look at me, look at me. They don't know you. So I've been using some software. It's not really software. It's just a subscription service called Envato, ENVATO.com or something of that nature. I think it's like I'm in Europe right now, so it's 23 euros a month. I don't know if it's like $26 US dollars a month or $30. I don't know what it is. It's different things in different countries, because I think somebody told me in Australia it was 16 whatever Australian is over there. So they actually got cheaper than I did here in Portugal. Anyway, point is that they have a video stock library. So for 20, 30 bucks a month, you just type in a word just like you would for a stock photo, and you can find a little B-roll video to serve as pattern interrupts. So I was running one on imposter syndrome. I think I actually showed you, actually. We have talked about
it. Was so funny.
And it was like this little fake mustache guy, and he was moving it. It worked well. Hysterical. They have really, really, really good click-through rates. So for those of you watching, if you're wanting to figure out how do you get good click-through rates, how do you stand out as of right now, October 1st, 2019, video ads. If you're running to a cold audience, try something that doesn't have your face, but once they are in your world, definitely use your personal brand. Sue's a little bit different because she is an influencer. She does have a large audience. People do recognize her face, and that's why her videos do actually convert really well for cold audiences. So multiple paths up the mountain, right? Multiple paths. You just got to test and figure out what works for you, right?
Yes.
Cool beans. And then for the piece of Pro, did we run ads there as well?
I did ads directly to the application only. So, and the audience is really small, right? It's like the 1,400 people or so that we were inviting to try Pro. So Pro was a very private promotion. We actually haven't talked about it publicly. Still to this date, we're getting ready to finally open the floodgates there. But so the audience being the 1,400 people getting emails, that email audience getting a couple of Facebook ads, a video ad, a stories ad, all leading to apply for the program. and then I think that another one of the audiences was like if someone had hit the application page and not completed, you know, like a real traditional retargeting of the application. But other than that, I mean, we only spent $585 on ads. I didn't expect to spend a lot
Sure.
because it's such a warm audience and it's
Sure.
such a small audience. So
Sure.
those people can get sick of that pretty quick, but it all worked out well.
So good. So one huge takeaway for people to see when they're looking at people doing $180,000, whatever, or let's just break this one down, 123 from a $500 ad spend, is that was from the
Right.
warm audience. So
Right.
sometimes when you're listening to these types of videos and you're learning from them and they're like, oh, I only spent $600 and I made $123,000. You don't know the whole story. Like, I'm not
No,
trying to
I
bash
spent
anybody,
months.
right?
No, months cultivating the warm audience.
Right.
Months.
Now, if we went to the cold audience, you still had a great return, but you spent $9,500 there to make the 60. So you still
Right.
came out a large chunk of change there. You still got a great return on your money. I would do that all day long. I don't know who wouldn't, right? But the whole point is when you guys are out there looking at launch results and all of this, really really pay attention and start asking yourself, well, I wonder if this was a warm audience, or I wonder if this was a cold audience, because it does make a difference. And I'm not telling you this for you to be afraid of like, oh, I have to wait until I have $9,500 to go launch to a cold audience. No, right? Start where you're at. Just start where you're at. I just want to make sure we're
100%.
setting realistic expectations. So you're not like, oh, I'm going to go spend $500 and go make 123,000 if you don't have a warm audience that you guys have been nurturing. So I just wanted to anchor that point, right?
Oh, totally. No, please start whatever budget that you have. That's what I always tell our clients as well on Instagram ads. And we've had huge success for years on $1,000, on $30, on whatever it is, depending on what the scale was. It's about paying attention what the cost per action is out of anything. Yeah, no, do
Awesome.
it, try it.
So what was your earnings per lead for the Ready Set Graham launch of $60,000-ish? I know you drove 4,000 and some odd leads. You guys made $60,000. Let's just run those numbers. I'm sure you have the earnings per lead, so people can see for every lead that you get into your funnel, you're making X amount of dollars.
Let's see.
And why she's running
15?
that number, $15. So this lets her know that she can spend up to $15 to acquire a lead and she's going to break even. Now you guys are acquiring leads way less than that. You're acquiring leads at what? What's your lead cost?
$2 or $3.
$2 or $3. So let's just use $3. For every $3 you put in, you made 15, right? So you netted $12. It's really good. You can't really make that at a casino,
Right.
Really good return, right? Brilliant. So one thing for people to also do when you're doing launches is figure out how many leads come in divided by the total revenue, so you guys can figure out your total earnings per lead. Now, the crazy thing is, and Morgan, is if the whole number, the 180 something thousand, really came in from the pool of 4,400 something leads, right?
I guess, yeah.
So if you divide that number, what would be the total kind of lifetime value of earnings per lead? That'll make you start looking at things a little bit differently.
$44? Did I
Exactly.
do that right?
Exactly. So the crazy thing is in this world, people always, I believe, are looking at how do I get my lead cost lower, rather than knowing how much money can I spend and still be profitable. So in Morgan's case, because of the back end, you could, while everybody else is fighting over $2 and $3 leads, you're like, I'll spend $30 to acquire a lead. I'm still going to make money. And as a result, it allows you to outspend the competition and so I can take over the game. Right? Totally different way of looking at paid traffic.
Definitely.
Right? Which is how much money can I spend and still be profitable? You could spend up to $44 and still be profitable $1 per lead. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Right? Last thing, two more things. So did anything ever go sideways? Because it always does during a launch. If so, what was it? And then how did you stay positive and focused on what you want and then, work to get it back under control?
Yeah. I would say that if you look at the entire launch as a whole, and the project really started in like April, and we just finished production of Pro last week. So it's April, May, June, July, August, September journey.
Yeah.
But this fourth quarter, we should make like more money than the last 2 quarters, because of that work. But with that said, I think that it's about like understanding where you are in the journey or before you judge yourself about what is happening. I think that was the best thing for me. In terms of things going sideways, I don't know. I mean, it was, I run a well-oiled machine here, sir. So I don't know if we have a lot of those things. I think that I would suggest to someone to document your processes early so that those things don't go sideways. So for instance, Pro is a high-end program. People pay $5,000 and deserve a $5,000 experience. There is a multi-step onboarding process that we put them through to get them oriented in the program, to get them starter materials, to get them access to the course, et cetera, et cetera. That process was worked through, refined again, delivered, adjusted over and over until it's like a 3 or 4 page document at this point. So process documentation is really helpful on any of these things, like how to promote a webinar, how to produce graphics, like whatever. So keeping organized. We adjusted, like we pay attention to ad spend and like decide the risk of adding in more money. I upped the budget by 3,000 from 6,000 to 9,000 in Ready Set Graham. While webinar registration was still going on, because I wanted the extra people on the live call.
Awesome. Was there anything, go ahead. I was going to ask, is there anything internally within your own mind, doubt, fear, worry that ever popped up?
Of course. No, yeah. I mean, I think that I've been in this industry for a really long time and I'm still nervous about the decisions that we're making. But I think that a couple of things is like having good counsel. I have a great group of people around me, AJ included, in order to help me know that the decision that I'm making is the call that everyone feels good about making. I think also your gut tells you a lot about where things should be, going. And so I try to listen to myself and listen to my team and understand what they need in what the right thing is. I also think that constantly getting feedback from the customers that you're working with is really important for validation. So Sue stays really active in our community on social, on direct message. And I orchestrated like phone calls and surveys and interviews with people who had come into Ready Set Graham, going into Pro or not going into Pro, to understand what the adjustments were that needed to be made. So staying connected with getting that feedback is, I think, really important. Each week on our live summer camp call, we asked everyone what was the most important thing that they learned. Like, what's the favorite thing that you learned today? It was never what I would have expected as the best thing that you learned. At least for my audience, they are very beginner. So learning a specific hack or where a button is or how to do something is empowering versus I would say, like, oh, I thought the overall strategy that I introduced was a big deal. Well, no, they are happy that they've learned how to screen record on their phone so they can put that in their stories and show someone scrolling on their sales page. And if that's what makes them happy, I need to do a hacks video so that they have more and more and more of that stuff. So listening to that feedback is helpful. And like you said, testing the offer was really validating as well. I was nervous about going so quickly into Pro and just nervous about Pro in general. And the fact that we tested it in front of such warm audience and had such strong reception meant to me that our people are going to like this. It might not be for everyone, but our people are going to like this.
Awesome. So where can people go to learn more about you, buy your stuff, learn Instagram, become ninjas, all that good stuff?
Well, SubiZimmerman.com, you have a bunch of free resources. At SubiZimmerman.com/guide, you have our strategy guide for if you wanted to get started. I've already mentioned the 3 Keys webinar. And you can find us on Instagram, either at the Instagram expert for Instagram tips or at SBZ team if you want to see more behind the scenes about running this business operationally. You have our team's voice, my voice from there as well.
Awesome. And is there anything else you want to impart upon anybody watching this? You could say, no, I'm good. I'm totally okay with that. You know, like if you're complete, I'm like, we're complete. But is there anything else? Any last words of wisdom if they're thinking about doing a launch? Yeah, anything you feel inspired to share with them?
I would say to be realistic about the goals that you're setting and what you're undertaking as part of your promotion. If you set unrealistic expectations or set unrealistic tasks for you to do for the launch, then you're setting yourself up to feel like you failed the whole project. So I always think that when you're committing to a launch like this, understand that it probably takes double the time that you think it is, including the like rest and like recovery of going live on a webinar, or for Sue doing 6 interviews in a day. Like you have to build in that recovery time. And I would make sure that it is your one goal that you have going on and not 3 things that you think are number one. The whole point of the word priority is that there's one thing that can be your priority. You can't have 3 number 1 priorities. I don't know how you would survive. So please, like let this be the thing and just give it the time and attention. Everyone starts exactly where you're starting. If you're brand new to this industry or you're creating your first course, everyone started there. Sue and I started in my college dorm room, this business, and meeting in hotels while paying to go to conferences to meet people, and selling stuff from Sue's store on the side to pay for our travel for teaching social media. So everyone starts exactly at the same place.
So good. Thank you so much for taking the time to like pull back the curtains
Of course.
and share with peeps. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bet.